What is going on, everyone? My name is Tamer and welcome back to another episode of I Talk Tech. Today I'll be giving you guys an epic comparison between the latest OnePlus 2 and the new Moto X style. Both these companies in the last week have released amazing budget smartphones that are trying to make it into the flagship world. Who tops out better, who has better specs, and who is worth the money? Well, this is what I'm going to tell you guys in this video. Now, before I do begin, make sure you guys go down below and smash that like button, as well as subscribing to this channel for more content like this. Now, without further ado, let's get started. So both the Moto X style and the OnePlus 2 are entering the arena for budget smartphones that people are going to want to buy. Now, OnePlus shocked us last year with an amazing smartphone that only retailed for about $329, and they're bringing that same phone back again, except in another version which is much more better, in the OnePlus 2. Now, Motorola, on the other hand, has been known for making some pretty incredible devices such as the Nexus 6 and the past generation Moto X. Now, this time they've come down with their price and made a budget smartphone for under $400, competing with the OnePlus 2. Now, in terms of specifications, the Moto X and the OnePlus 2 share many similarities, but they also do have their differences, and which one is more important to you will probably decide which one you're gonna get. So in terms of display, the Moto X has a much bigger display at 5.7 inches compared to the OnePlus 2's 5.5 inches. Now, if this form factor doesn't mean anything, the Moto X is slightly taller than the OnePlus 2. So if you're not a big phone type of guy, maybe you want to switch over to the OnePlus, as it has a smaller form factor than the Moto X. But where it comes in display is that the Moto X style has a 2560 by 1440 display. That's Quad HD, just like the Samsung Galaxy S6 and other smartphones like that, Quad HD, not 1080p. Whereas the OnePlus 2 continues with its previous OnePlus 1 1080p screen. Now, based off this, the display of the Moto X is going to be much more crisper and much more detailed than the OnePlus 2. But is it worth the extra amount of money that you're going to get? Well, that's up to you guys deciding which you guys look for in a phone. Now, in terms of performance, everyone wants to know which phone is faster than the other phone. Well, in this case, no phone is actually relatively faster than the other phone. So the Moto X style, or Moto X Pure, comes with a Snapdragon 808 chip with an Adreno 420 GPU. This is a very fast chip and has been almost only 1 year old. Now, on the other hand, the OnePlus 2 features a Snapdragon 810 processor, which isn't a very big performance upgrade. If I were going to say anything, I would prefer the 808, as the 810 is known to have some overheating issues in some phones. So I believe that the 808 is actually a better deal because it doesn't have the overheating problem, whereas the Snapdragon 810 is very minimal in performance upgrade, while it does sometimes bring overheating issues. Now, other than the processor, we also get RAM diversity. Now, in the Moto X, we only get a standard of 3 GB of RAM, which is more than enough for the standard consumer. But in the OnePlus 2, depending on the storage option that you have, you can either have 3 GB of RAM if you choose the 16 GB variant, or you can even get 4 GB of RAM if you choose the 64 GB version of the phone. Now, is this 1 GB difference gonna make it or break it for you? Well, I don't think so. 3 GB of RAM is a lot for a phone. That's almost reaching laptop territory, where the OnePlus 2 already has 4 GB of RAM, which is basically most standard laptops' RAM size. Now, is that 1 GB gonna do you any different? Well, you may experience some better multitasking performance, as well as maybe a hint of better gaming performance. But overall, 3 GB of RAM is much more than enough to fulfill the average consumer's needs, especially for only under $400 on a smartphone. Now, the Moto X will be available in 3 different size configurations: 16 GB, 32 GB, and 64 GB, whereas the OnePlus 2 will only be available in 16 and 64 GB. Now, the Moto X style does have the upper hand, as it will be able to have expandable storage through a micro SD card, a feature that's kind of dying lately. I'm a big personal fan of micro SD card slots, but I can do without them. If you guys are more into micro SD card slots and you always need more memory than what your phone is capable of, the Moto X is definitely the way to go. Or if you only need 64 GB of storage or 16 GB of storage, the OnePlus 2 would better fit you. In terms of battery, both these phones are a non-removable battery, so you can't swap out batteries and replace them when the battery is dead. But the Moto X style has a 3000 mAh battery, whereas the OnePlus 2 features a 3300 mAh battery. While we haven't received any battery tests yet, the Moto X style features a 2560 by 1440p display, meaning that's going to have to put more power to that display. But the OnePlus 2 on the other hand only has a 1080p, meaning it doesn't have to put as much power to the phone. Now based on that, we can come to the assumption that with more milliamps in battery and a lower resolution screen, we can expect the OnePlus 2 to probably perform much better than the Moto X style. But that is something we need to wait on to see official battery testing, and I'll be sure to cover the latest smartphones in another review on these smartphones. Now the big thing about these phones is their price. That's what's setting them and making them so hot of a device. The OnePlus One last year killed it by offering almost flagship specifications onto only a $329 phone. The only problem was that you could barely get your hands on the phone until a year after the phone was actually released. You had to be invited in order to buy the phone, and very little people got invited, and the people that wanted it sometimes didn't even get the phone that they wanted. So, with the Moto X style, the pricing remains pretty standard. It's going to be offered in a 16, 32, and 64, with the base model starting off at $399. Now the OnePlus 2 on the other hand starts at $329 for the 16GB variant, which is close to $80 less than the Moto X style. Now if you want the 64GB variant, that goes to $399 compared to the $399 that gets you a 16GB in the Moto X style. But remember, you can get expandable storage in the Moto X style. Some other features that make the Moto X style stand out is that it includes fast charging, NFC, and also IP certification for water resistance and waterproofing. Now these are all features that the OnePlus 2 does not share. The OnePlus 2 has a USB Type-C connector, meaning it's going to charge slower than the average quick charge and won't be able to support quick charge. So you can expect charge times around 3 hours or more for the OnePlus 2 compared to almost just around under 1 hour for the Moto X. So a big difference in charging, and depending on what you prefer on a smartphone, that may make or break it for you. So personally to me, the Moto X style is much better than the OnePlus 2, but the OnePlus 2 does have its share of some amazing features. Now you guys tell me down below what you guys think about the OnePlus 2 and the Moto X style, and which one you'll be buying, and which one you think is better than the other one. Now I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. Please make sure to go like it and go subscribe to this channel for more content like this, as I'll be reviewing both phones shortly. So I thank you guys once again for watching, and peace